Of the plethora of Japanese developers with notable classic catalogs, Atlus is arguably one of the most prolific. Besides the countless originating Megami Tensei games spread across the 80s and 90s, the 2000s also had their fair share of beloved releases, such as the Raidou Kuzunoha duology. Aside from digital versions on the PlayStation 3 store, these titles have never received native ports on future platforms, so the announcement of Raidou Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army was pretty thrilling. This revival of the first entry provided an opportune time for me to finally experience it, bolstered by countless improvements and additions to the gameplay systems, culminating in one of Atlus's best modern launches yet.
Been over 60 years since the Meiji Restoration. The capital, once known as Edo, well, let's just say it's growing fast. These days, it's all about being modern. Cash and science are king.
Raidou Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army follows a newly minted Devil Summoner given the prestigious title of Raidou Kuzunoha XIV, doubling as an apprentice at the Narumi Detective Agency. His central goal comprises protecting the capital from the supernatural threat of demons, supported by his feline guide, Goto. It's also worth noting that Raidou serves an organization, Yatagarasu, which helps maintain this peace. One day, a young heiress by the name of Kaya Daidoji reaches out to the agency in an incessant panic, requesting that they kill her. Then, she is kidnapped with no explanation, initiating a case that naturally involves saving her, but it also gradually expands into a complex conspiracy affecting the entire nation. Narrative-wise, Raidou Remastered is a reasonably well-paced mystery adventure that isn't shy about throwing a ton of questions at you before the dots start to connect. Besides the circumstances surrounding Kaya, several tangential cases emerge that do a respectable job of selling you on the vast, dangerous machinations at play, without feeling needlessly contrived. Admittedly, while I definitely enjoyed immersing myself in the narrative of Raidou Remastered's world, I wouldn't say that the plot or cast were intensely compelling. If I had to compare this experience with my only other full Devil Summoner venture, Soul Hackers 2, I'd say that title's characters and story captivated me more, undoubtedly a rare opinion. Still, Raidou Remastered impressively establishes its own distinct identity, complementing its mostly steady storytelling in a way that truly endears you to the town you constantly traverse on the job. Additionally, the third act is a substantial step up in stakes and intrigue, even if the pacing felt just a tad rushed. The cast, for the most part, is also a collective highlight. For instance, Goto has appreciated doses of personality despite primarily serving as Raidou's mouthpiece for progression, and Raidou's detective superior, Narumi, has more depth than his initially indolent impression may suggest. Even the frequently appearing journalist, Tai, adds an energetic spin when she's on screen, making the involved major players all the more entertaining. It's the secondary and other minor characters such as the townsfolk that don't provide much, though that's to be expected. At the very least, a genuine sense of community and hominess is accomplished thanks to them, with handfuls of settlements and interconnected pathways. I also found Raidou to be one of my favorite Atlus protagonists. Despite being silent, his fantastic design and the sheer meaning of the burden he takes on with the Raidou mantle make a notable impression. Where Raidou Remastered excels above all else, though, is in its gameplay. Unlike its Megami Tensei brethren, this entry is a black sheep for embracing action RPG combat, with Raidou himself being controllable while the demons you recruit battle by his side. There are numerous systems at play here, but they are all quite approachable and intuitive after a few hours. Firstly, Raidou can use standard and heavy strikes in battle, with the latter altering significantly depending on the equipped weapon, which comes in 3 types: swords, spears, and axes. The swing speed and heavy combos of the weapons differ remarkably, making your contextual usages crucial. Still, the combat flow is swift, addictive, and satisfying, no matter what you arm yourself with. To be honest, I was quite surprised at how much Raidou Remastered feels like a genuine action game, considering it's such a drastic departure from the franchise's central identity. Movement is responsive, with perfect dodges leading to powerful follow-up attacks that make timing consistently vital to master. I was expecting the action component to be a supplementary facet. Still, that doesn't mean that the customization and character growth are lacking. A central aspect of Raidou Remastered is the recruitment and fusion of demons, which aligns with the rest of the franchise. However, it's simpler here than usual. Recruitment occurs mid-battle, requiring Raidou to be at least at the same level as the targeted demon. Afterward, the art of confinement technique can be performed, resulting in the demon being captured in a matter of seconds. Occasionally, a demon may ask a question, with the correct response granting them a slight stat increase, but once captured, you have already succeeded at the process. It's a to-the-point procedure that I appreciated immensely, especially since the methodologies for demon capturing throughout the Megami Tensei franchise, such as negotiation, tend to be hit or miss personally. Admittedly, I initially wished there was just a bit more to the demon confinements, yet considering the action flow here, I eventually became glad that lengthy conversations don't hold up the combat pacing. The other avenue of demon obtainment resides in the Goma Den, which is a vast array of topics in its own right. Comparable to the Velvet Room from the Persona series and the World of Shadows from Shin Megami Tensei V, this hub is where all manners of fusion occur with its eccentric host, Victor. If you've played other Megami Tensei titles, the fusion here is abundantly familiar to pick up on, though one of the standout traits in this entry is how demons are stored. You can register demons like in other games so that you can resummon them in the future should you so desire, but in this title they're compiled into the Devil chart rather than a compendium. A major difference here is that there is no percentage communicating how many demons you have acquired out of the entire game's roster. This isn't necessarily an objective issue, though I have always enjoyed the gradual increases in compendium completion across the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona titles, so I was mildly let down here. Then again, it felt like fusion wasn't as encouraged as it usually is, since you can find most demons out on the field, and the overall number here is nowhere near as vast as the likes of your mainline Shin Megami Tenseis. Regardless, fusions can be beneficial as they enable you to outfit your created demons with more of your personal touch, with specific skill allocations. Plus, some demons can only be made via fusion, and there is an initially intimidating table dictating the types of demons you can receive from fusion that depends on the orders, types of creatures you use. But I never found it necessary to build my demons that intricately via fusion in the first place, since even on the harder difficulties, the game isn't that demanding. Additionally, the Goma Den offers sorting options for fusion, including showcasing the entirely new demons that can be created from your entire registered lineup, making the order relationships seemingly inconsequential in this context. Summarily, the demon fusion has its place, but I wish it had a more consistent presence and balanced systems that made it worthwhile to engage with. At the very least, you can store multiples of a single demon in a more limited storage space known as the Premium Devil chart. Interestingly, Raidou Remastered lets you command two of the same demon mid-battle, adding an unexpected layer to your continually evolving demon configuration. Another aspect of the Goma Den which I enjoyed much more than the demon fusion is sword alchemy. Here, you can create new weapons for Raidou, assuming you have the proper materials and enough currency to do so. There are a shocking number of weapons here, each embodying different stat emphases and even brand new skills that can be equipped onto Raidou, regardless of whether the associated weapon is on hand. One of the two sets of skills that Raidou can earn here are combat skills, which are manually activated mid-battle, either comprising buffs or attacks rooted in physical, firearm, or elemental efficacy. The other ability type is sword skills, which are passive boons that make substantial differences. Considering that you're limited to equipping 3 combat skills at a time, and the costs for crafting later weapons are rather expensive, there is always a sense of carefully curated caution and reward for this avenue of character growth. Circling back to the combat, there is a respected balance of strategy that meticulously melds the familiar RPG attributes of the Megami Tensei franchise with bold action incorporations. Alongside the aforementioned perfect dodges leading to the free openings, you can stun enemies if they're struck with their corresponding weakness enough, and demons can even be manually commanded to activate specific skills. Elemental relationships are always vital traits to note as well. Locking on and target switching are also well handled, which is relieving as that's not exactly a consistently managed factor in action games. Still, just about every special maneuver requires a continuously updated resource known as Magnetite, or MAG for short. MAG is restored continuously through regular attacks, and it is even necessary for capturing demons, making it arguably the most vital factor to consider mid-battle. Another major factor concerns telegraphed enemy attacks, which are signaled transparently. Thankfully, allied demons can be called back right away, gaining any potential damage they might have received. When also keeping in mind that multiples of demons can be equipped simultaneously, and that you can swap demons in and out mid-combat whenever you want, you're given plenty of freedom in regards to how you want to approach fights, with much more leeway than your typical Shin Megami Tensei experience. This point is accentuated by how you gradually gain the capacity to carry more demons, going well over 20. Raidou Remastered also excels in its exploration, which spans the overworld and dungeons. The former is divided into on-foot and map traversal, with the latter hiding a surprising number of hidden items and side paths. I was impressed by how the directions of the exits you use on certain screens lead to different parts of the world map, instilling a relatively believable and memorable layout. The town locations and dungeons have their fair share of secrets too, frequently rooted in demon abilities. Given Raidou's partial occupation as a detective, he can summon any demons on hand, who all have field skills such as inspecting the immediate vicinity, affecting the moods of NPCs, or interacting with the environment. This vast selection of actions, while mostly minor in the grand scheme of events, makes area navigation a consistently exciting practice. I do feel like these demon abilities weren't capitalized on quite enough though, so hopefully that's a shortcoming the sequel improves upon. Despite that, I had a great time traversing the interconnected map, gradually getting to know the beneficial facilities, such as the bar that offers drinks with buffs across select moon phases. As for the dungeons, they're usually relatively fulfilling and memorable in both their scope and the moderate puzzle design. Still, the strange dungeon obstacles, of which I'm still unsure of the point, are the barriers that can only be destroyed by a specific attack affinity. They take practically no time to take down and are effortless, coming across as needless padding. One final gameplay point worth mentioning is the case files or side quests, which are fairly typical in their collective execution. In addition to monster slaying, you'll sometimes need specific demon abilities to help an NPC, so they embrace the strengths of this title well enough. On PlayStation 5, Raidou Remastered ran practically flawlessly. The enhanced visuals are terrific, expertly capturing this fictitious take on mid-1900s Japan. I especially loved the character illustrations, helmed by Kazuma Kaneko, which boast that characteristic Shin Megami Tensei flair, primarily seen on the facial expression. Despite its age, Raidou Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army feels like a well-optimized modern action RPG, boasting a rewarding combat flow and valuable exploration alongside a well-paced, mystery-driven narrative. Even though the demon fusion and other tangentially related facets aren't as polished as they could be, this compact adventure is well worth the time for veteran fans and newcomers alike, as it reinforces yet another distinct sense of identity in this multifaceted Goliath of a franchise. Noisy Pixel is giving Raidou Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all of our future content.
Noisy Pixel.